So have you ever felt like a top of the line, super expensive gaming computer, but you're just being used as a doorstop?
Oh, that's a vivid image.
Right. Like you have this incredible processing power humming inside of you, this, innate capacity to render entire universes. But your day-to-day reality just demands that you sit there and hold a heavy door open.
Yeah,
And I mean, sure, you're heavy enough to do the job, the door stays open.
but the waste.
Exactly. The sheer tragedy of that wasted potential, it's almost physical. And today, we're doing a deep dive into a text that argues this exact feeling is not just, personal burnout.
Far from it.
Yeah, it's actually the single greatest destroyer of global wealth in human history.
It's a fascinating premise, really, because, we spend so much time talking about economic policy or like supply chains and resource management,
Constantly.
but we rarely look at the fundamental misalignment of human talent as an actual macroeconomic crisis.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because that is the mission of today's deep dive. We are exploring a highly unique um, 2021 essay by an author named Zhu Feng.
Yes, and it was translated by Kinyu and edited by Kerkir.
Right, and it carries this very direct, almost blunt title, which is Mismatching Talents and Positions Are Wastes of Social Resources.
It really gets right to the point.
It does. But before we get too far in, I should mention that Xu Feng operates within this specific philosophical and spiritual framework known as Life Yuan.
Which is important context.
Very important. It's a community focused on deep cosmic and spiritual alignment, and he actually views himself as a primary guide for that movement.
Right, and that context is going to become incredibly important later as we get into the deeply personal turn this essay takes.
Oh, definitely.
But he starts with this sweeping look at society as a whole. And it's a rare piece of writing because you have someone diagnosing these invisible ailments of global society, but doing so while actively, presently suffering from the exact disease he's describing.
Right, because he doesn't use like dry economic jargon to make his point.
No, not at all.
We first need to visualize exactly what this looks like. He uses these violently mismatched scenarios to make you actually feel the waste.
He really rapid fires these images.
Yeah, he says, imagine shelling mosquitoes with big guns.
Which is just absurd.
Totally absurd. Or taking a master flower grower, someone with this intuitive, delicate understanding of how to cultivate life, and throwing them into a kitchen to cook meals.
Yeah, or someone with the intellect to win a Nobel Prize being relegated to, like, middle management at a corporation.
Yes. Or skilled cosmetologists, people trained in the nuances of aesthetics, just sweating away on a factory assembly line.
The imagery is striking, I think, because it forces us to look at the mechanics of the friction.
Right.
Let's take another analogy he uses, just to ensure the point really lands. He looks at the animal kingdom.
Oh, the cat and dog thing.
Exactly.
Hmm.
He points out that cats are biologically engineered to catch mice, right? And dogs are historically meant to guard homes.
Right, that's just a natural alignment of innate capability and function.
But if you swap their roles, if you force the cat to guard the house and the dog to catch the mice, it's not just that the house gets robbed and the mice run free.
Which they will.
Right. But it's also a functional disaster that causes immense psychological and physical distress to the animals themselves.
Because the cat suffers because every natural instinct it possesses is being suppressed.
Exactly. And he scales that up to history, too.
Yeah.
He points to British leadership during World War II.
Oh, yeah, Winston Churchill and Bernard Montgomery.
Right. So you have Churchill as prime minister and Montgomery as the field marshal. That was a brilliant natural alignment. You have Churchill's strategic rhetorical vision and Montgomery's tactical military execution.
And if you swapped them.
Right. If you put Churchill in a tent on the battlefield and Montgomery in front of the microphone in London,
It would have been a disaster.
the author argues it wouldn't just be inefficient, it would be a catastrophic waste of highly specialized human machinery.
Okay, but let me push back on this for a second, just to play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Because I hear this and I think, well, look, society needs doorstops. Someone has to hold the door open. Work is just work.
That's a common argument, yeah.
Like, most of the world operates on the reality that we have to do things we don't necessarily want to do just to keep the lights on. Why is this such a colossal civilization-level big deal? Isn't it just a luxury to complain about not using your talents?
Well, see, that is a very modern, incredibly capitalist way to view human labor. We tend to view humans as interchangeable units of effort.
Right, like cogs in a machine.
But the author challenges that completely. He answers your exact question by zooming in on biology. He uses the analogy of the human body.
Okay.
Think about the mechanics of how you operate. The biological function of your eyes is to gather light and see. Your ears process sound waves.
Your feet are built for walking.
Exactly. And the function of your brain is to think, to reason, to synthesize, to imagine. So if you force the brain to stop thinking and instead demand that it do the work of the hands or the feet, if you force it into rote, mindless physical labor at the expense of its cognitive capacity, it's fundamentally backward.
You're basically using the eyes to walk.
Yes, it's putting the proverbial cart before the horse.
But wait, why is that worse than just being inefficient?
Because the author states this creates an invisible and huge waste of a highly specialized resource. And that word, invisible, is the key to why society tolerates it.
I see.
When a brilliant mind is forced to haul boxes all day, we can easily measure the output. We can count the boxes. The spreadsheet looks good.
Right, productivity looks fine on paper.
But what we cannot measure, what is entirely invisible, is the groundbreaking theory or the cure for a disease or the revolutionary piece of art that was sacrificed so those boxes could be moved.
Oh, wow. Because you can't measure an idea that was never allowed to be had in the first place.
Precisely. It is an immense opportunity cost. The text argues that the human population is infinitely rich in creativity.
So when talents are aligned, society gets more than just efficiency.
Much more. When the brain is allowed to think and the hands are allowed to build, society unlocks an absolute ocean of material wealth, spiritual wealth, and what the author calls soul wealth.
Soul wealth.
Yeah, misalignment isn't just an annoyance, it is a massive dam holding back human progress.
Okay, so if the stakes are truly that high, if proper alignment creates this boundless wealth and fixes this invisible loss, why are so many people stuck acting as doorstops?
It's a great question.
I mean, what is actually forcing the supercomputer to hold the door open? And the source points to two main culprits here.
Yes. The author identifies these two distinct traps, and they operate on very different levels. One is highly personal, and the other is entirely systemic.
Let's start with the first one, because I think everyone listening to this deep dive understands it in their bones. It is the trap of survival.
Running for survival.
Exactly. People take whatever job pays the bills. The author points out that regardless of what your specific innate talents are, when push comes to shove, you choose whatever you can do to generate income.
And we really need to unpack the mechanics of what happens to a person in that state. It isn't simply a matter of making a pragmatic career choice.
What is it then?
It's about cognitive tunneling. When you are operating in survival mode, when the rent is past due, or you're worried about affording groceries, your brain biologically limits its focus to immediate short-term threats.
Right, so your bandwidth is entirely hijacked by survival.
Exactly. The necessity of survival forces the poet to become a data entry clerk. The poet's mind simply cannot access the space required for poetry because the cognitive load of survival demands all their energy.
You aren't sitting back asking, how can I best utilize my innate gifts to advance human civilization? You're asking, how do I keep the heat on this week?
Right. That is why the talent goes to waste. The survival mechanism is a powerful grounding force that completely overrides our natural aptitudes.
Which brings us to the second culprit, which is much more structural. Now, real quick, as we get into this, it is crucial that we state our parameters clearly here.
Yes, absolutely.
We are going to outline the author's specific argument regarding governance and state control. We are not endorsing this viewpoint, nor are we criticizing it. We are just impartially reporting the mechanics of the claims made in the text so we can understand his complete thesis.
We're just looking at the architecture of his argument.
Exactly.
So, with that understood, the second reason the author gives for the misalignment of talent is excessive government regulation and intervention.
Okay.
The source claims that the more a system or a government tries to control and manage its population, the more people's talents misalign. And he specifically points to China as an example of this dynamic.
And he is very clear that this has nothing to do with the intelligence or the capability of the people themselves, right?
Very clear. He argues that it is difficult for China to produce Nobel Prize winners or large classes of world-renowned craftsmen, not because the population lacks brilliance. The brilliance is absolutely there.
Right. So what's the issue, according to his argument?
That heavy government control and central planning prevent natural alignment. Think about how rigid systems work. A highly regulated system allocates resources, including human labor, based on quotas or structural needs or top-down plans.
So it creates pre-cut holes and forces human pegs into them regardless of their actual shape.
Exactly. It's an information problem. A rigid system can't possibly read the millions of individual market signals or natural aptitudes of its people.
It just says, we need 10,000 factory workers, and totally ignores the fact that 500 of those people might be generational artists or brilliant engineers.
That is precisely his point.
Huh?
The text asks rhetorically, how can great scientists and thinkers be born if their talents aren't allowed to naturally gravitate toward their interests? How can century-old shops emerge in a system with too much intervention? And he uses a historical contrast to back this up.
The reform era, right.
Yes, he points to the early days of China's reform and opening up. He describes an infinite vitality that burst out of the society during that specific period.
Oh, wow.
And he attributes that economic and cultural explosion directly to the mobilization of the people's inherent creativity. When some of that regulatory pressure was released, when talents began to align just a little bit more naturally, the result was massive wealth creation.
Does focusing purely on survival inherently blind us to finding our actual purpose, or do these rigid systems force that blindness upon us?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, he sees these two forces working together. You have the frantic biological scramble for survival on one side, and the heavy restrictive red tape of systemic regulation on the other.
And they work together to keep the cat guarding the house.
Exactly. That combination is what crushes the infinite creativity of the people.
Okay, so up to this point, we've been dealing with a very sweeping macroeconomic theory. We're talking about wealth generation, systemic rigidity, the tragedy of human capital.
It's highly theoretical so far.
Very. But what makes this essay so compelling, what really elevates it, is that the author does not stay in the ivory tower. He abruptly turns the camera completely around on himself.
The tonal pivot is jarring, but it is incredibly effective.
It really is, because he makes his own daily life the ultimate painful case study for this exact theory.
Right.
Now, earlier I mentioned that Shurfeng operates within the Life Chanuan community. In the text, he refers to himself with a very specific, incredibly lofty title.
He calls himself the guide of human spirits and souls.
Yes, the guide of human spirits and souls. That is how he views his innate talent, his actual intended purpose on this earth. He's meant to be a thinker, a philosopher, a spiritual guide for humanity.
Yet he confesses to the reader that he hasn't written a single valuable article in 2 years.
Not one. And why is the guide of human spirits entirely silent? Because he is currently trapped in the survival loop, literally running a guest house.
What's fascinating here is the cognitive dissonance. It's just profound. You have a man who holds a cosmic self-image, someone who believes his brain is meant to generate spiritual wealth for civilization.
Yeah.
And yet his physical reality is completely detached from that purpose.
Completely. And he wants you to feel that detachment because he breaks down his daily schedule with relentless, exhausting detail.
Oh, he's so specific.
I'm not going to list every single chore, but just to give you the shape of this philosopher's day, he is up at 5 a.m. every single morning. He immediately starts cooking breakfast for his guests.
Right.
By the time they eat, and he clears the plates, cleans the cups, wipes the tables, it's 10 a.m. Half the morning is gone. Then he makes his own lunch, and then he's stripping beds, washing sheets, coverlets, bath towels, remaking the rooms perfectly until 5 p.m.
And it doesn't stop there.
No. Then he's waiting for new guests, cooking dinner, washing everyone's dishes, folding laundry until past 8 p.m., and finally forcing himself to be asleep by 10 p.m. just so he doesn't ruin the next morning's breakfast.
And those are just the predictable tasks. He mentions the hidden friction that consumes whatever tiny slivers of time might be left.
Like what?
Like 30-kilometer drives for bulk groceries, playing handyman and doing constant repairs on whatever breaks in the guest house, mowing the yard, tidying the lawn.
Oh my gosh.
When he calculates the actual true free time he has left in a day, it is less than 2 hours.
Less than 2 hours for the guide of human spirits and souls to actually guide human spirits and souls.
It is the absolute embodiment of his thesis. His brain is literally being forced to do the work of the hands and the feet. The philosophical friction here is incredible.
Right.
Imagine the mental toll of scrubbing a toilet when you sincerely believe you possess insights that could elevate human consciousness. The misalignment isn't just inefficient, it is a quiet, daily psychological torment.
Which forces him to confront a massive existential question directly in the text. He asks, which is more important? Is it more important for this tour guide to do these physical chores every single day just to make money and survive? Or is it more important for him to be writing valuable articles?
His answer to that question is incredibly stark. He leans completely into his philosophical framework.
What does he say?
He states that as the tour guide, He understands in his heart that his inability to write is a sorrow for mankind. He calls it a huge loss to civilization,
Wow.
and specifically an incalculable loss to life genuine and its celestials.
I mean, he doesn't mince words,
Yeah.
and he knows how extreme that sounds. He even asks the reader, a bit alarmist, is it not?
But he refuses to back down.
Right. He insists that history will ultimately prove him right. History will show that losing his thoughts to the demands of a guest house was a genuine tragedy.
But then, after building to this incredible climax of cosmic loss and civilizational sorrow, the narrative takes its most surprising turn.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yes.
Because you expect the big rebellion here. You expect him to declare war on the system, to say he's walking away from the guest house to go meditate on a mountain and free his mind.
Right. You expect a dramatic exit.
But he doesn't. He just accepts it. He writes that since humanity as a whole cannot be aware of this tragedy, since the world doesn't realize what it's losing, he is going to take things exactly as they are.
It's so unexpected.
He literally says he will simply enjoy the happiness and tranquility of ordinary life.
It is a beautiful, startling paradox. You have this immense tension between his deeply held conviction of a world-changing purpose and the very grounding, almost Zen-like peace that can be found in simple, menial labor.
But how does he reconcile that, though? How do you find peace when you think humanity is losing out on your genius?
Because fighting reality constantly is vastly more exhausting than the physical labor itself. Think about the nature of his chores versus his perceived cosmic duty.
Okay.
Guiding human spirits is ambiguous. It never ends. There is no clear metric for success. But washing a dish, folding a bath towel, that is a definitive task with a clear beginning, middle, and end. When the towel is folded, it is done.
There is a profound, undeniable relief in that kind of concrete accomplishment.
Exactly. He is mourning the loss of his intellectual output while simultaneously finding a very real human tranquility in the rhythm of ordinary life.
I love that.
It highlights the profound duality of our existence. We are creatures capable of pondering the cosmos, yet we are also biological entities who must eat, sleep, and maintain our physical environments. Finding peace in that friction is perhaps his greatest philosophical achievement in the essay.
That is such an incredible way to look at it. We've gone on quite a journey with this text today.
We really have.
We started by looking at this massive, invisible macroeconomic waste, the supercomputers being used as doorstops, the systemic traps of survival and regulation that keep people locked in the wrong boxes. And then we zoomed all the way down to the poignant, sweaty reality of a philosopher setting his alarm for 5 a.m. to make breakfast for strangers, somehow finding peace in the sheer exhaustion of it all.
And yet, Xu doesn't leave us entirely in that state of peaceful resignation. The text concludes with a lingering tease.
Oh, right, the ending.
He poses two massive questions at the very end. He asks, where is mankind's escape? How do we fix this misalignment?
And he doesn't provide a 10-point policy plan.
No. He doesn't offer an economic roadmap either. He simply states that the answer lies in the tour guide's brain.
The very brain that is currently too tired from mowing the lawn to write the answer down. It is brilliant. It leaves you wanting to drive to his guest house, check in, and just wash the dishes for him so he can finally tell us the answer.
It really does. It's a masterful way to prove his own point.
Well, it certainly leaves us with a lot to chew on regarding our own lives and how our society is structured. We want to thank you for joining us today as we unpack this incredible source. But before you go, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Something to build on the text, but maybe step outside of it a bit.
Exactly. Imagine if his dream actually came true. If the perfect alignment of every single person's talents was miraculously achieved tomorrow. If all the potential Nobel winners, the great thinkers, the visionary artists, and the master flower growers were instantly freed from survival mode, freed from systemic red tape, and allowed to only do what they natively do best.
Sounds ideal.
Right. But if that happened, would the basic mundane tasks required for our society to literally survive, like washing the dishes, mowing the lawns, taking out the trash, would those things still get done?
That's the real question.
Or would our collective pursuit of higher purpose ironically cause the everyday physical world to grind to a complete halt? Think about that the next time you feel like your talents are being wasted at your desk. We'll see you next time.